No one can teach you anything. How real wisdom percolates outward from your own experience. In a summer in my mid-20s, a buddy and I discovered the Tao Te Jing, and it blew our minds wide open. For those unfamiliar, this is a book of 81 verses written by the sage Lao Tzu around the 4th century BC. Some claim it was actually a 250 BC compilation of the works of a number of Chinese authors over the prior century or two, but personally I like to think of it as the output of one very wise Fu Manchu mustache-having dude. It is the main text upon which the Taoist religion and philosophy is based, and has garnered a following of about 20 million souls worldwide. Apparently, it's also the second most translated book in the world next to the Bible, so I guess there must be something to it. The Lao Tzu myth includes an origin story for the text in which, upon leaving the city, the sage was asked by the guard at the city gates, who recognized Lao Tzu, to write him a guide for life, an instruction manual of sorts, that would provide him with a handy-dandy ethos by which to live, a moral code. Remember, this is before God decided to finally deliver the good word himself through insert modern prophet of your choice here. Before then, we're led to believe that human beings were just flailing about for like 100,000 years without the faintest idea of how to conduct themselves, perhaps searching for a sign like the guard at the gates. But I digress. Back to the myth. Lao Tzu had never written down his wisdom before, words not being strictly necessary in his estimation, but he calmly obliged the guard's request, words also not being an encumbrance. Thus was born the Tao Te Jing, loosely translated to the Book of the Way. It can be read in a few hours. For a couple of secular university grads recently and unceremoniously tossed into the fray of our emerging lives, apron strings severed and decidedly guidepostless, this discovery was a sheer delight. We each bought ourselves a copy of the Mitchell translation, somewhat panned for its taking of poetic liberties, and spent the summer fully engaged in philosophical ping-pong, quoting the wisdom within its pages to each other whenever the moment seemed right. The Tao that can be named is not the eternal name. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Oh yeah! The best way to deter theft is to avoid purchasing expensive items. High five! The words seemed beautiful and wise, and gave a couple of philosophy newbies our first taste of what awakening to our emerging wisdom might feel like. Maybe we could find our way after all. Needless to say, we were far too young to really grok approximately 97% of it. But we didn't know that, nor did it matter. We discovered the treasure of an ancient Chinese code for living life, and, ruminating like weathered sages atop a misty mountain, we recognized and reveled in at least those truths that we could understand. We were on a path which also regularly led to Sam the Record Man, where we would inevitably purchase one classic jazz album or another, further burnishing our emerging highbrow personas. Sages also enjoy a dash of jazz. That was a fun summer. We laughed incessantly. We talked about life. I had sushi for the first time. I mean, what else would a sage class 1 eat, right? Years passed, and I would periodically return to the book, sometimes to look up a passage, and sometimes to read the whole thing again. On one of these occasions, my reunion had me discovering things that I seemed to have missed before. It was an odd feeling. I'd read the whole book many times, but now there were new aha moments in different places, just as when I had first read it. The pattern would repeat itself each time I returned to the text over the years. I would reread, and then there would be new knowledge. It was puzzling. Did I just keep forgetting what I had learned last time? The words seemed familiar, but their meaning was new. Like Lao Tzu was tweaking them slightly each time I closed and reopened the book's covers. It finally dawned on me, of course, that the book wasn't changing at all. I was. I was learning things, but perhaps not appreciating my own intuition or knowledge until I saw it poetically crystallized in the pages facing me, forcing consciousness of my knowledge in the moment. The cookies were baking all along, but the Tao Te Jing was the ding of the oven bell. Now, I'm not comparing myself to Lao Tzu, and of course, the book itself may very well have been the beginning of my newfound knowledge in many areas. The Tao Te Jing rang my bell countless times. But I started to think that no one can really teach you anything. Personal experience is necessary to contextualize and internalize knowledge deeply and intuitively before you can really claim knowledge as wisdom. Of course, I know that teachers do exist. Good teachers point the way, outline, encourage, and even inspire. Thanks, Mr. Allen. Louis C.K. once hilariously quipped that teachers have the unenviable job of getting kids to know math against their will while they're exploding sexually.
They show up, they tell them ahead of time, "Hi, what is this job?" And they say, "Okay, here's what we need you to do. We need you to make children know math." Wow. Do they want to know math? No, they don't want to know it. You need to make them know it against their will while they're exploding sexually. Who are these children? Just whatever kids live near the building. How much do I get paid? About $10 every 4 years. What if I get really good at it? What happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. Nobody notices, and you get fired, and you die alone. Okay, I'll try it for 25 years.
But students must practice and seek, actually trying to compute the cross product of two vectors, and then having an experience that requires that knowledge in your own life comprises the other half of the knowledge puzzle. Parents are always trying to figure out how to teach their kids the right lessons, but somehow they always seem to resist this well-intentioned effort. Little Emily just doesn't care about the value of planning ahead, until she forgets that the Taylor Swift tickets went on sale yesterday. Try to teach someone the 17 different ways to play a C major chord on the guitar, and they may just tell you to fuck right off. But if they slowly find those shapes by playing songs, connecting them through an evolving understanding of the fretboard, they'll eventually obtain that knowledge in spite of the fact that it seems basically impossible to learn at the outset. Here's a picture of the C major scale on the guitar fretboard. Thanks, teacher. You may find it ironic that I share my thoughts on this site, but also purport not to be able to teach you anything. True enough, but you may well not yet be conscious of what you already know. I'd be willing to bet you're harboring thousands of thoughts and ideas, fugitives clamoring for daylight, but as of today relegated to the ironic and hilarious unknown knowns quadrant of knowledge. Surely we can set some of them free together. If you want to be wise, listen to teachers, but make sure you become a seeker. Immerse yourself in your curiosity and engage with whatever it turns up. Your aha moments are coming. Life, your practice, will eventually connect the dots and make you a sage. This has been episode 2 of the Summer Soul podcast, No One Can Teach You Anything. Thanks for listening, and as always, for supporting our work on the channel.